Child identity theft is very real. Children's information is sought more readily than an adult. They have no history, they have no credit, they have nothing. Their social security number can be added to anything, a birth date, a fraudulent birth date, birth location, and actually be used to create a complete identity. These are the topics that will be covered in this class on child identity theft. Most of the information is in the video on my channel about identity theft. There are many videos, how to contact the Federal Trade Commission. I have not included those in this one. I've just kind of touched on some of the areas that are solely related to children. So this again, I want to thank you for visiting my channel and for listening to this video and for spending time with me to discuss this topic. I hope it's of benefit to you, and thank you again. Child identity theft is not something a child can protect himself from. This is solely our responsibility as guardians and parents. We must not take this as a light thing. Many of us don't think it can happen because they're children, but their social security number has no history. So criminals seek this one more than adults. We must build safeguards, laws, and other avenues to protect our children's future. It is a painful thing to a child to start to college and find out that he's $100,000 in debt. This is the type of stuff that's happening right now to someone right now in this country. So we must guard, we must be diligent, we must build protection to keep their identity safe, thus keeping their futures bright. Identity theft can totally destroy their bright futures, cause hardship for them at the very beginning of their lives. We have to carry this burden. They cannot. This is something so serious. I don't think many of us as parents and guardians think that they are vulnerable in this area. We make sure that they get shots, that learn how to not talk to strangers or pay attention crossing the street. But we sometimes forget that this is an area that is very vulnerable to them and that we have to be responsible. Be sure to read everything. Any document someone gives you at school, the doctor's office, anything, you must make sure that they need your child's social security number. Oftentimes, even I have been asked on a form in a doctor's office for my social security number. I do not write that there. How much more should we be mindful of those issues when it comes to our children? Identity thieves have a well organized business. Our children's identities are coveted, they are sold, it makes them money. So we must be vigilant to keep them safe in an area where they are not yet aware of their own vulnerabilities. Education. When they are in school and they should be learning their lessons, this is what they're facing. If you're newborn to 16, boy or girl, relative, no credit history, living or passed away or adopted, this person is an excellent candidate for identity theft. If you look at the components on the slide, they're newborn to 16, boy or girl. They can be a relative. They have no credit history. They are wonderfully living and thriving, and maybe unfortunately they have passed away, or even if they were adopted. These are things that make them very, very vulnerable because they are children. They're under the age probably of 16. Another class. We're learning our art and doing things. I remember those days. But what is the teacher actually teaching? Identity protection scans of more than 40,000 children in the United States show that 10.2% of those children have had their Social Security numbers used by someone else. This was an organization like LifeLock or some other organization like one of those security family check processes they do that you purchase. And this is what they found, that 10% of those children were compromised. That's a frightening thought. Not 1%, not 2, but 5. 10% of those children were you being fraudulently victimized by people who had stolen their identities. Ah, yes. Learning, sitting in class, science. Oh, how I remember those days of physics. But what is the teacher instructing them on? The IDs of children studied in the report were used to purchase homes and automobiles, open credit card accounts, secure employment, obtain driver's license. The largest fraud was 275 correction, $725,000 was committed against a 16-year-old girl, and the youngest victim was 5 months old. This is something we should pay attention to, that we are not being educated on as parents and guardians. We need to be vigilant on this. This is something so, so serious. Ah, another class, another wonderful class of science and learning where we're doing what we do with our experiments. But what is the teacher teaching? At least one study showed child credit and Social Security numbers abused at a rate of 51 times greater than the adult population. This is due to our lack of education, our lack of due diligence. We must realize that this needs to be brought to the forefront. Unfortunately, we don't hear it enough in the news. We hear a lot of identity theft, but we don't hear these startling statistics on how real this is. And the PTAs and different things are not really educating parents to warn them that this is a very real threat to their children, and that they need to become more and more involved on what's happening, become aware on where they're sharing their children's information. Because most parents do not consider that their child has a credit report or need to check a child's credit report. The crime of identity theft resulting damage can continue for years. Now, this was a study I found in Parents Guide, and I thought it was very interesting. They did a survey in 2007, and they polled 3,029 adults, as it says here, ages 18 and older, on a topic of child identity theft. And look at what the statistics say on this next slide. Now, 68% of the respondents knew only a little to nothing at all about child identity theft. 11% knew a great deal about child identity theft. 5% felt it would be very difficult to steal a child's identity. 39% of the parents with children under the age of 18 felt it was not too likely that their own child's identity could be stolen. 11% of the parents thought it was very likely that their own child's identity could be stolen. The one that says 39% of the parents under the age of 18, it was not too likely. We have more education to do. We must talk to our friends in our little circles, in our family meetings, in the PTAs. This needs to be brought to the forefront in the schools. And those of you who have small children in school, make this one of your projects and talk about it. Maybe they can do a presentation at assembly, or doing a PTA meeting or something, because this is very real. The Federal Trade Commission mentioned a couple of these warning signs for identity theft for your child. They talk about government benefits already being allocated because of your child's social security number, or receiving statements from the IRS that your child owes taxes for a job they worked, or you may find yourself receiving collection calls or bills for products and services you know nothing of in your child's name. There are many others that could possibly reflect the compromise of your child's social security number. So be alert to the mails you receive. Free offers in the mail for credit cards, all kind of things like this will be a warning sign that your child's identity has been compromised. If you have children in school, Find out who has access to your child's personal information. Verify that the records are kept in a secure location. Pay attention to the forms from the school. Why do they need your child's social security number on every form at that school? That's not necessary. Me, I don't even understand why they need the number, but times have changed. But make sure that they have a secure process. This is not just like a bunch of files kept in the secretary's office in an unlocked file cabinet. Where they do with them at the end of the school year, how they dispose of, are they thrown in the trash or are they burned? You need to understand the whole policy. If your child is in school, these are things you definitely want to be involved in, is the protection of your child's information. The federal government has put many rules and regulations in place to provide transparency and accountability to the schools. Make sure you read all notices your child brings home from school, and also make sure you're aware of your rights. There's a document they should provide you that is required by the federal government. Also, you should inspect and review your child's education records. Approve any form of disclosure of information. Make sure you know where your child's information is being sent, and also make sure you understand who is requesting that information. Check your child's records. If there's any errors or things that need to be fixed, make sure the school does that. And also make sure your school lets you know what type of information on like directories or yearbooks that's provided on your child. Also, you want to check for a copy of the school's policy and consider all their programs that take place at school. And if the school is breached or the information is compromised, file a formal complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. Make sure you do your due diligence. Now, this is the information on the Family Policy Compliance Office. This is in Washington, D.C. That's the FERPA that was referred to in the other slide. So, this is the agency that governs what happens to your children's information in school and what your rights are. Additional rights can also be given in some states, so you want to check with your local attorney general's office. The Federal Trade Commission recommends that you check your child's credit report when they just before they turn 16. My recommendation is you should check your child's credit file if he's a month old. He has a social security number. These are the numbers that criminals desire the most. Put a freeze on your child's social security number. Many states, unfortunately, doing my research, are reluctant to give the parents the right to put a freeze on their child's credit file. I found that very interesting and disturbing. So I suggest if you're in one of those states that you contact your legislature, your senator, and make it aware that that is something you as a parent would like to do to protect your child. If you discover that your child has a fraudulent credit file, it is easier to get that cleared up when they are a minor. You want to get that done before they're 19 or 20 years old. If you've never checked your child's credit file, you should do that immediately, because once they become an adult, it is so hard to get the file straightened out. I have included this little booklet. It's a Federal Trade Commission's product and it's free, and it's from the identitytheft.gov. You can actually download it as a PDF, but it gives a little information on what to do if your child's information is compromised. It's not everything, but it's kind of like a little roadmap. They encourage you to go to identitytheft.com and to fill out your personal recovery plan and to update your plan and track your progress. And but what's most important on that website in that location are the letters, the sample letters. It's just absolutely wonderful. You don't have to worry about what you're going to say in the various letters you have to write. I just love this website. The Federal Trade Commission has done an excellent job. None of these things existed in the 80s when people were battling to straighten out their credit. So I just take my hat off to them and think they have done such a great job. So go on this website. It tells you which letters go to who. It tells tells you what attachments you should include. It has different letters for like the credit bureaus when you're disputing, businesses and debt collectors, and it tells you so many wonderful things to do. So please go on this website if you've been compromised, or even check it out just so you can be aware of what is available. This is the second page, well, actually the third page. And again, it just continues on. It gives you some information on where to contact the three credit reporting agencies. And also down at the bottom, you see it gives you a phone number and the website for the identitytheft.gov. This is just the last page in the book. This is on the back of the booklet, but it is downloadable from the Federal Trade Commission identitytheft.gov. Now, this is a form you would need. It's also found on the same page. It's called a Uniform Minor Status Declaration. It allows you to represent your child by providing information proving that you are the legal guardian. And this is the page 2 where you would sign. These are some numbers that I found in the identitytheft.gov packet. So this is just kind of like showing you some places you would have to call and contacts you would need to make. This is another page in the same document, and as you can see, it lists some of the various phone providers, cable companies, and it's really nice what they've done in collecting all that. Some of the information and phone numbers may have changed, but it's a good way to give you a reminder of places to contact in the event of identity theft. And here's another page that lists some banks and possible other agencies you would contact. And once again, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video and taking the time to spend time with me about this subject. And have a great day.